Thank you. All right. For those of you who are currently here, thank you for sticking around. I am recording this now, and I appreciate I think that was Litzy, I believe, who woke up just early enough to make sure that I did this for me. Thank you, Litzy. All right. So I want to talk today about when returning to what worked before doesn't work anymore. I need you all to hear that it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's not because you're broken. I personally released 170 pounds, and I've stayed in this range since November of 2018. I've been 2 years on the weight loss plan. This is my last journey from November of 2016 to November of 2018. That's the span of time it took me to release 170 pounds. And in that time, I never broke my lines. I never broke my sugar lines. I never broke my flour lines. I never broke my eat in between meals. It was a very, very strict time. And I struggled with excess hunger. It was quite a challenge. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I was determined to not go back. I had a lot of fear around gaining the weight back again. As a matter of fact, when I started this journey, I was starting it because of my type 2 diabetes and high cholesterol. I didn't think I would lose weight. But as I was losing this weight, I was also seeing something really, really challenging, which was my excess skin. As a person with excess skin, I have angel wings. I have Sharpay's eyebrows on my cute little butt. I have waterfalls that go down my legs and down my stomach. And I have lovely little rolls that transcend my back. And these are things that are real. I'm not Christy Brinkley, and I thought I might be. In the process, though, I also cured severe asthma, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, fibromyalgia, severe joint pain, and exhaustion. That's a lot. That's a lot. I made program changes as well to battle my weight gain. Throughout the process, from the time that I finally decided, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be. And by the way, excess skin affects your number drastically. I have about 36 to 42 extra pounds of excess skin based on a calculation that Cindy Reineman Marsh and I did. And it's pretty accurate. And I've lived for decades on the roller coaster, 35 plus years. I was heavy as a child, very heavy as a child. And then I lost some weight between high school and college, and I gained it all back and then some, and started my roller coaster again when I was pregnant with my first child, my sweet Jackie. So do you see yourself here? These are some things that some ways or some areas that might be about you. Maintenance creep. You reached your goal and your maintenance stance weight is creeping up. Maybe gaining 5-10 pounds a year, maybe having to make super major changes regularly. See, I told you I couldn't do it. You lost all your weight and gained it all back, or can't keep it up. This is a sweet part, and also an unconscious contract that we've set up for ourselves. I, for one, had reached 58 and thought, I'm never going to lose this weight. And after how many times that we lose our weight and gain it back again, how many times do we end up feeling like, okay, that's a pattern, I can trust that. Head versus heart. Processed food is poison versus I just want to be normal. Concession obsession over caregiver. You put yourself and your food last. And then there's the rebel, resistor, anti-restrictor, rule breaker. Resist and rebel against requirements and regulations. I'm going to talk about all of these different aspects, and we may have some of them, each of us, at different times. So in broad strokes, coming from big numbers is different. It is. Maintenance weight creep is a real thing, and there's a lot of reasons for it, and I'll be going into that. And how important are emotions and stress? I need to take a deep breath right now. Think about how often we work on, live on this business when we need to stay calm or try to calm and relax in the moments. What about our nutrition after years and years of eating the same thing? What about our gut biome? And why we shouldn't go back to the weight loss plan. I'll be going into real detail on that. So let's look at the science of this. I cannot say enough about how important it is. It is not our fault that we have these reasons why we need to keep going back to the sugar and flour crap. It's not our fault. The tobacco industry actually purchased General Foods, Nabisco. They purchased three different, and probably more, three different cereal companies back in the 60s and 70s. Do you remember all of the crap that we started getting? Parents being told, mothers in particular being told that we need to feed our kids these things, and how much easier they were. I mean, Wonder Bread, you could ball it up and it starts at infancy. It's the only addiction I know of that starts at infancy. And society accepts this obsession. As a matter of fact, they applaud it. Every single treat, every single celebration, every single holiday observation is loaded with crap. Vacations, there are so many places, going out to dinner, there are so many places where it's acceptable to feed on this obsession. And so we are constantly bombarded with these things. And then let's add the fact that every time we're stressed, and let's not even talk about COVID and Ukraine, let's just talk about our normal everyday stress of getting through the day, even the stress of maintaining a food plan, the process that we have to go through just to maintain a food plan. Those stressors are actually very near the addictive neurons in our brain. So they're going to tickle our addictive neurons every time we get more stressed. And mirror neurons, I want to talk to you about it. As a mammal, we mirror other people's behaviors. And that's why it's so important to decide whether or not you want to maintain the same kinds of relationships or maintain the same way you're showing up for your family and friends. Is it possible that you change the meetings, that you change the way that you meet, that you change the focus? Asking for changes is really also very challenging. But remember that there's a real strong pull of mirror neurons to get us to keep to eat the way others are eating. As veteran dieters, there's metabolic slowdown, insulin resistance, leptin resistance, and gut biome imbalance. I need you all to hear that metabolic slowdown is a real thing. It comes from the most research that's been done on this is around The Biggest Losers. People that had a very low calorie count and very high exercise, all in a long period of time. Some of them they followed for years, and they found that, for instance, one man burned 2,600 calories when he started The Biggest Loser effect. At the same weight that he gained back, 3 years later, he was burning 2,000 calories. So in order to just maintain his higher weight, he had to eat low, what is that, 30% lower in calories? 25%. Think about that in relation to why things are challenging for us now after we have been weighing and measuring and so clear, keeping our foods simple, keeping our foods in the background, not embracing them, not listening, not recipes. Everything is extremely simple. Metabolic slowdown exists for us, and that's the main reason for weight creep on maintenance. Insulin resistance is another one that is over time. If you're someone that sometimes doesn't follow their plan, which is a lot of people, insulin resistance and leptin resistance can be really the main cause of your struggles. So I'm going to go into that as well. And then the gut biome imbalance. There's a whole lot of new research now about how important our gut biome balance is. I'm clear that my gut was out of balance, even though I've been eating really cleanly for 2 years. But it was one of the main reasons that I was struggling. So let's slow down for just a minute. And I want you to evaluate the problems, strengthen your foundation, build your confidence, and fix one thing at a time. Think about this when you're looking at what I'm going to show you, because there's a lot of information here and it can cause overload. And I need you to hear, I am regularly, clearly wanting you to maintain a little odometer on yourself. And notice when you're feeling more stressed. Notice when there's a buildup of, oh my gosh, there's so much to do here. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle all of this? We're going to work on this, and we're going to work on it slowly. So what do we need to fix? And I want to remind you, what is right? What is right about what we're doing? So we know we want to lose weight. And for the first time ever, we feel like we possibly can maintain it. That's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. Healthy choices for healthy living. Long lives. Clarity, calm, and happiness. Not just words. We can live these. So, metabolic slowdown. It's not something that I hear a lot, but it is something that's real. And there's a lot of different ways that we can move it. In other words, focusing on these particular things might be really, really helpful to just fix this thing. Long-term dieting lowers our metabolism. That's a fact. That's something that now the long-term dieting by itself. Raising your calorie count wisely can help you. Diving into your nutrition, especially protein. I'm going to go into more detail on that in another slide. But diving into your nutrition and determining what exactly you are giving yourself. Movement. We are basically told not to do any movement because it can counteract the effects of weight loss. Here's the problem. If you stop moving, which I did for almost 2 years, if you stop moving, what happens is your body, first of all, the stress in your system is not, your lymphatic system has no pump. We are the pump. So that's why getting up and moving on a regular basis does many things. First of all, it moves the stress and adrenaline, the cortisol through our system and sends it goodbye. It gives us a moment to breathe, because generally we're breathing when we're doing some movement. And it gives us the ability to stop our brains from thinking that we are starving. Oh, you must be okay. You're moving. Oh, all right. I can settle down a little bit. That's your brain talking, by the way, in case you didn't know it. Prioritizing quality sleep. really evaluating the circadian rhythm, using a lamp in the morning or getting out for 20 minutes, just exposing your face to the sun, walking for 20 minutes early is a huge one. Removing all highly processed foods. They need to go. They need to go. They are really one of the biggest causes. And add in some strength training, increasing your muscle mass. In a 6-month study, people who performed strength training for 11 minutes a day, 3 days a week, experienced a 7.4% increase in resting metabolic rate and burned 125 extra calories a day on average. Okay, think about that. 11 minutes. And by strength training, you can just take some cans of soup to make a difference. Doing squats, cans of soup. So let's talk about insulin resistance. When cells in our muscles, fat, and liver don't respond well to insulin and can't use glucose from our blood for energy to make up for it, our pancreas makes more insulin. So our blood levels, our blood sugar levels rise. Our cells are not accepting the glucose. So when we eat outside of meal times, our pancreas kicks out more insulin in preparation for processing the foods we ingested. So the idea of me being a grazer probably was the major contributor to why I ended up with type 2 diabetes. I no longer have it, but I'm certain I'm still susceptible to it. So making certain that I don't eat in between meals, really important. We need to eat whole foods. We need to move, walking in particular, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and eating only at meal times are the solutions to insulin resistance. You're going to start seeing a pattern here, guys. So leptin resistance, this is something that it probably was included, but the only thing I ever saw was that leptin was the get up and go hormone. I did not realize it was also the satiety hormone or the starvation hormone. And I definitely didn't know that it was produced in our fat cells. It's the primary target is the hypothalamus, which is a part of our brain. And it determines, and it has a guide. It basically tells our brain to stop eating and burn calories at a normal rate. Guess what? It's very, very integral to metabolism. Broken leptin increases hunger, increases fat cells, and increases leptin. The more leptin we have, the more hungry we are. The more leptin we have, the more fat cells we have. That's the main reason for morbid obesity. So our brains aren't getting the leptin signal. It's flooded. And it thinks we're starving. I don't know what that means. Eat nigher. I'm going to just ignore that because I don't know what it means. It thinks we're starving. We need to, it also reduces energy expenditure. So it makes us want to sit down. It makes us not want to get up and eat. How many of us are struggling with moving at all? Which is why I like to call it movement and not exercise. It helps me. Eating more and exercising less is not the underlying cause of weight gain, but a consequence of leptin resistance.
Summer answered your eat nigher in the chat. It is eat more.
Thank you. The impact on dieting. Losing weight still reduces our fat mass, but it also reduces leptin, increases hunger and appetite. So think about this. It reduces motivation to exercise. It lowers metabolism. Your brain thinks you're starving, and it initiates poor mechanisms to regain that lost body fat. The poor mechanisms being wanting to sit and wanting to eat more. So these things cause leptin resistance. Obviously, obesity, I've already talked about it. It's kind of a chicken and egg, honestly. I think processed foods cause the brokenness. I think processed foods are the reason that our leptin resistance exists at all. I think it's the reason that the communication is broken. There's nothing scientific that I have on this. I just know in my gut that eating all of these processed foods has created the inability for my brain to properly announce that it's time to stop eating. I'm no longer hungry and I want to get up and move. I believe that in my bones. Now, whether or not it breaks leptin, I don't know, but that's my sense of it. Regardless, inflammation, food sensitivities, and processed foods and stress, all of those three cause inflammation in our systems. And then leaky gut, which honestly is attributed mostly to gluten, and then of course obesity. So how can we fix this? Oh, avoid processed foods. That's really an easy thing to say, isn't it? Eat soluble fiber. Soluble fiber actually protects our liver. It improves our system, and it improves our gut biome balance. Movement, as I've mentioned, have we gotten the clue yet that we need to do some movement? Improving our sleep, making sure that our sleep is strong and solid and good sleep, which means staying away from screens near the end of the day, removing light sources that cause us to not have a deeper sleep, lower triglycerides, and healthier protein levels. Let me just take a question here if anybody has a question on any of this so far, because this is a lot. I'm just going to pause, stop the share for a minute, check out.
Sonia, can you comment on soluble fiber and lowering triglycerides?
Yes, sort of. Basically, soluble fiber is vegetables, fruits and vegetables that have fiber in them, that salads, raw vegetables in particular, but if you can't do raw vegetables, then cooked vegetables is also good, but having a good balance of soluble fiber every day. I'm not talking about fiber additives. I'm talking about the real thing. Salads, carrots, celery, cucumbers, zucchini, green peppers, all very important sources of soluble fiber. And then lowering your triglycerides is having healthy fats. Get anything that's a processed fat out of your system. Some people argue about what is a processed fat. I'm of the opinion that a little bit of olive oil is probably okay, unless you're really sensitive to that. But olive oil is a processed food. But there are different types of oils. The old oil that we have that is that Crisco oil. Oh my God. There's nothing good about it. Nothing good about it. So healthy fats would be avocados and olives, eating seeds that have good healthy fats in them, flaxseed, ground flaxseed, and hemp hearts, pumpkin seeds, chia. All of those are really good sources. Are there any other questions? All right, I'm going to go on. I have an entire class on stress, and it's on my YouTube channel. And a reminder that stress and laughter are really important to be mindful of. Be mindful of how much stress you have, and also be mindful of how much you're laughing. Going to your rested state when eating is primal. Everything that that we do all day long can cause us stress. When we sit down to eat, we need to take deep breaths. We need to do 4-box breathing. We need to sit in prayer. We need to sit in meditation for a few minutes to get our systems to recognize that we are safe. A mantra, I am safe. I am safe. Really, really helpful, because our digestive system is offline when we are in stress. It's a fact. We don't have the same system working well, which is why a lot of us have IBS, a lot of us have digestive issues, constipation, diarrhea. A lot of us have these things because we don't go to a resting place when we're ready to eat. Can't say enough about how helpful that is. Tools to balance and calm and center us. Think about the vagus nerve. There's a lot of exercises out there for the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve goes on either side of our, it's the longest nerve in our bodies. And it goes down the right and left side of our heads, through our necks, down into all the different aspects of all our organs are attached by the vagus nerve. And the communication, most of it goes from the gut up through into the brain. So if our gut is not healthy, if we're not telling our bodies and our brains that we are calm and centered and everything is safe, we will have a problem with the stress levels and with our gut. Focus on the good things that we have every day. Think about how often you say, oh, I didn't have a good day today. Yeah, I went back and I had an apple 2 hours after because I forgot it at lunch, or I had, 2 more ounces of carrots. I wasn't paying attention, and I put too much food on my salad. First of all, that's 2 meals out of 21. That's less than 10%. That's still an A. And even if you eat something that you shouldn't eat, those are minor in comparison to the rest of the effort that you're making. Please focus on the good things. Please, please remind yourself about how hard you're working. You're here. It's 8 a.m. for me. You're here now. You're spending time on this. You're invested in this. You have a long history of doing really amazing things at the behest of all of the industry and the bombardment, the advertising, the bombardment we get that tells us to do something different than what we want to do. Please focus on the good things. They will carry you. And reframing the bad things. Is it possible that you can look at the week and say, wow, I had a really great week. I only ate off plan twice. Or I had a really good day because I started it out so well. Focus on the good things. And is it really true? This is a question I really like to ask myself, especially when I'm stressed. Is the information that I'm gathering really true? Is it really true that, so-and-so doesn't like me because they didn't call me back? Is it really true that, I was on a call and nobody paid any attention to me? Is that really true? Let's really look at what is going on, and the stories we're telling ourselves can really increase our stress or lower it. And most importantly, it is in caps, because I don't care what you do or don't do. If you can sit and notice, you're pulling yourself out of the amygdala, out of the stress center, out of the trauma, and you're sitting in a place of curiosity. When you can sit in that place and just look at yourself and look at what's going on, it actually pulls you out of that trauma center, and it may stop you from face planting in the pantry. Just that noticing, because it literally does pull you out of the amygdala. I have a whole talk on the amygdala and the default mode network. Go there and look at it, also on my YouTube channel. So just remember, we can choose our state of mind, sort of, by the choices that we make. We can have peace, balance, freedom, calm. And when we notice chaos, when we notice the shame spiral, when we notice the brain fog and the low energy, we can use those as reasons why we should do something different. All right, so I want to play detective with you for a minute here. I want you to consider that every single person that joins a plan usually goes on the weight loss plan. And I want you to think about how different we all are and whether or not it might be helpful in the long run for all sorts of reasons, to increase our metabolism, to allow us to stay on the plan, to fix that thing. How tall are you? What's your highest weight, your current weight, your body shape? Do you have excess skin? Do we need to evaluate your number that you are hitting? Is your number really too low? Are you in maintenance, but it's at too low a number? That was my issue. Consider your movement level. If you're above just walking around during the day, not just, but if you're doing more than that, consider that in relation to the amount of food you're eating. Some people do the Biggest Loser and they keep cutting their calories and keep increasing their movement. Let's consider giving you more protein, more fat, and more starches. Starch is not your enemy, by the way. And I am not a fan of women going keto. Also, looking at your meal schedule. Consider making just little shifts, maybe pushing your breakfast a half an hour later or pushing your dinner up a half an hour earlier. Consider having a longer window of fasting. And then, of course, if you've had bariatric surgery, please consider 4 or 5 or even 6 meals. Other things to look for: food allergies and sensitivities, inflammation, as I've mentioned before, your hunger level. There is real hunger, and then there's boredom and loneliness and cravings. Consider what those are and sit with them. Angst around the rules. Why do you have angst around the rules? Why do you have resistance? And why are these rules in place in the first place? What are they really intended for? If I've measured all of my food and I just got back from a really long day, and I've got all my food in front of me, but the protein's not quite done yet, am I breaking a rule by starting to eat my vegetables while I'm still waiting for the protein, while I'm standing up in the kitchen? Depends. Is this going to cause you to eat more food later? Or is this going to give you a satiety level and a relaxing that might help you? Think about the reasons for the rules and whether or not they're serving you in the moment, because we're all unique. If you have hair loss, that's a clear indication that your body is trying desperately to cut out anything that it doesn't really need. Don't really need our hair. Think about the level of energy required to maintain. It's going to maintain your heart. It's going to maintain your digestion as well as it can. It's going to maintain your lungs. But these extraneous things, no, which is why we also have low energy and why it's hard to concentrate. These are all aspects. These are all clues to why things may be going awry for you. To solve eating off plan, in my opinion, this is the biggest and most important thing to solve. Eating off plan. Review your current nutrition. What is it that you're doing that's eating off plan? Do you need to add those foods in, or do you need to add more food because you are generally and regularly eating extra food at different times? Watch yourself. Make note of what you're doing, reviewing your current nutrition, making sure that you have foods that are actually what they're supposed to be. As I mentioned earlier, 8 ounces of almond milk is not a protein. It's not. Adding satiating foods is really helpful. Think about the importance of and the reasons why we only have grain at breakfast. I don't consider sweet potatoes a grain. I don't. It's not on any level. It has a starchy component to it, yes. But starch doesn't add weight to us. It doesn't add fat to ours. It gives us energy, and it's satiating. I don't consider sweet potatoes a grain, but I do believe that we need to add sweet potatoes in particular. And if you don't have sweet potatoes, add in butternut squash or delicata squash or acorn squash. Add something like that to your meal plan. Quinoa is also a really good one. I personally don't eat oats, and I personally don't eat rice because it doesn't serve me. It actually kicks up my cravings and it bloats me. I'm probably sensitive to it. I probably have some sort of allergy to it. Not everybody has that same reaction. That's where we get to figure these things out. We are our best detective. We have a PhD in our own nutrition. So removing all those poisons is so important because it is a big reason that we keep going back to eating off plan. And it's really not on our plan anyway. And evaluate your causes of inflammation and consider that you may have sensitivities that are causing inflammation. Another one that a lot of people don't like to hear, gluten and nightshades. I removed gluten and nightshades for a very long time. Nightshades are an inflammatory. They're an age-old poison a long time ago to humans that we've slowly become acclimated to. Those are tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, and eggplant. Potatoes is the white potatoes. Those are the 4 in nightshades. And you may want to just eliminate them for a while and see if it helps. The other thing I like is if I have just one. I used to have just one of them. So if you have peppers, for instance, don't have tomatoes. And this also actually, and I hate to say this also is black pepper. So think about removing those for a time and seeing if they help your inflammation. You'll know pretty quickly, especially if you're eating cleanly regularly. Lowering your stress at every opportunity, neat. And of course, it really helps to stop eating off plan by having trusted community. And the trusted is the important part. You have to feel safe. You have to be able to say, I just face planted in the kitchen, but I'm committed to not face planting tomorrow because it causes this, this, and this. Trusted community can help you with that. Trick your brain. Evaluate when you are eating might help. The intermittent fasting may help, but evaluating when you're eating, if you have a consistency, change it up a little bit. Make some changes and see if it makes any difference. Intermittent fasting, there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can have the fasting mimicking diet is a way. There's also having one meal and then having 36 hours, 48 hours. I don't recommend this for people that are regularly breaking their lines. But it may be a way for some people to start to make some changes, to do some mixing up. And that's a whole nother topic on its own. Food rotation might help determine what's going on as far as food sensitivities and that kind of thing. So consider eating like all one group of proteins in a day and then another group of proteins. So I'm vegan, so I would choose all certain types of beans one day, lentils another day, chickpeas another day, and then soy products. I would probably do something like that on a rotation. So everything each day, and you will notice if you're running into inflammation issues or other types of ways to show that you're allergic to that food. 40 different fruits and vegetables. I spent 3 years basically eating the same 6 and 7 vegetables and fruits every day. I believe that my gut biome was out of balance, and that was one of the reasons that I was so hungry. So going to 40 different fruits and veggies in a month, not in a day, but in a month. Think about also considering including in that spices. So the idea behind keeping it simple was to break a plateau. That's what keeping it simple is basically for. So think about adding different things and mixing it up. So here are some ideas for nutrition in particular. Make sure that you're eating true protein sources. I front load my protein source. I have 30 grams of protein at breakfast. And then I have about 20 grams at lunch and about 20 grams at dinner. I eat a sweet potato regularly, each meal generally. You can put, and probiotics, I believe very strongly in real probiotics. Pills are great as a secondary source, but having kimchi and sauerkraut brine is a great one to add into soups. Make sure the soup's not too hot. Kefir is a dairy-based source of probiotics. I believe very strongly in non-dairy myself, as you'll see down below, but there are other options of probiotics in dairy, in non-dairy yogurts. Pickled vegetables, a wide range out there now. It is a beautiful place to surf and a beautiful place to add foods in on a regular basis to give yourself variety and to feed your gut biome. I'm going to say a word that has, been blacklisted basically, but smoothies are super important in my food plan. I eat smoothies every day. And I had to do this because my gut would not digest raw vegetables. Now I've since made quite a number of changes to my gut biome and to my gut. And now I can eat a beautiful and delicious and nutritious salad every day. But smoothies are a really, really great form of getting all of your nutrition in really quickly. Consider a fourth meal if you're finding that you have issues between lunch and dinner in particular. There's usually a big span there. Consider spreading out your taking some of your food from dinner or some of your food from lunch or both, or literally just adding vegetables and a protein to 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon. This is where you get to be the detective to determine what is going on and where my problems lie. And now these last 4 are, in my opinion, really helpful in making sure that you are not being triggered over and over and over again, even though you've left sugar and flour by the door. Gluten is a terrible substance that eviscerates our gut lining and creates openings that can cause severe inflammation. It opens up space in the gut biome, in our lining of our gut, and allows substances to leak out, which is the main cause of inflammation for me. I cut gluten out of my diet 15 years ago and made a huge difference in my inflammation. Dairy. I'm really sorry about this, but dairy is a big one. Now, if this is causing you a lot of stress, I want you to fix these other things first. Consider cutting dairy as much as you can. Consider alternative sources. of dairy and consider the reasons why you're eating it. It does cause addictive substances. It's casein. It's also the thing that makes a sweet little calf a many thousand pounds cow. It's full of reasons why we shouldn't eat it. Caffeine's another one. Caffeine can kick us into a high and a low when we're talking about maintaining our stress, maintaining a good balance all day long. Caffeine causes this business, and it actually causes us to start lower. How many of us wake up and say, oh my God, I'm not a person until I have my coffee? Well, guess what? If you have a normal system like this and you're going from this, and believe me, I am a coffee snob. I'm from Seattle area, and I believe very strongly that there is a beautiful mix in caffeine that is just incredible. I'm a coffee snob. I believe very strongly that the smell of coffee sends me into nirvana. And I also know I had to give it up. My doctor told me I had an extra sensor node in my heart. It was kicking my heart rate up into the triple digits, 186. Not caffeine, but steroids. My heart rate was going up to 186. And he told me I had to get off caffeine and I had to do it cold turkey. And it was a sad, sad, sad day. And I'm sad about it. So I understand how it feels, but I can tell you that caffeine is one of the main reasons that we have problems staying in that regulated zone where we want to be. Caffeine does this business, and we're never really at that beautiful balance, and it can cause an awful lot of stress. Excess salt, inflammation, blood pressure, etc. I'm not talking about regular adding of salt to our meals. I'm talking about the excess salt that happens when we need to pay attention to it. So think about your mindset shifts, because these are really important. When we're looking at making big changes, why are we wanting to make these big changes? What is it that's causing us to go off? What is it that's creating this challenge? Start with mindful self-compassion. Kristen Neff has an amazing 2 books on this: Mindful Self-Compassion workbook, and also Fierce Self-Compassion. There's a whole website on it. You can go in and take a mindful self-compassion survey. Are you really being as gentle to yourself? Are you treating yourself as you would your dear friends? Because that's a key. When we beat up on ourselves, you're blowing it. You're blowing it. So let's beat up on ourselves for beating up on ourselves. We are each unique. Each one of us has different genes. Each one of us comes from different backgrounds. Each one of us has ancestral heredity and reasons why we do what we do. Foods that feel comfortable for us and foods that don't. We are each unique. And that's why it's important to pay attention and track with curiosity and gentleness and noticing. And if the main reason that you want to lose weight is because you need to get to a certain number, or you think you need to be at a certain number, or you're there, you've landed it, you've gotten the golden, the gold medal, consider other ways to measure yourself. Consider throwing that scale away. Consider removing it from the equation. Do I feel good in my clothes? Do I like what I'm able to do right now? Maybe you don't need to make any changes except to relax. Remember that we're not food addicts. We're addicted to substances created by an industry that has subsidies for high fructose corn syrup. We're not food addicts. I love food. I love all my delicious and nutritious foods. And recommending that you really add to your why. A lot of people know me from my list of whys. It's actually a list of non-scale victories, but they are my whys. Keep building your whys, and it will help cement the reasons why we want to do this hard thing. So in closing, change your food plan, change it up, fix it up, feed your gut biome, give it some fresh new vegetables, try a new vegetable every week, maybe every day. Tools to lower your stress. Think about Donna Eden and anything regarding the vagus nerve stress, anything that is on EFT tapping. Consider ways and tools. Breathing. There's tons of beautiful breathing exercises out there. Use the tools that will help you lower your stress, even incrementally throughout the day. I would put a sticky note out that says, how's my stress? And it will help you, remind you that you can use a simple tool. Don't forget to move. I believe very strongly, actually, singing, especially at the top of your lungs, activates your vagus nerve, stimulates your vagus nerve, lowers your stress level, improves your breathing. I don't care how you sound. I'm sorry that you might care how you sound, but I don't care how you sound. I want you to sing at the top of your lungs as if nobody is watching. It's a gift, and it is a form of movement. Make sure your sleep is a priority. Front load your joy. Do something silly and fun and totally playful every day. And remember that blame and that shame and that judgment has no place. No place. And last but not least, notice. Notice. We are each of us unique and yet the same.
Sonia.
Yes.
This is Tommy. Hi.
Hi, Tommy.
So I love your final word there, notice. I would love to hear a little bit more about noticing and why it's so important.
So there's science. The science says that when we are in a traumatic situation, when we're triggered, when we something happens, it could be something as simple as we got an email from our boss and everything tightens up and we constrict. What happens in our brain is that our prefrontal cortex, all the blood from our prefrontal cortex pulls back and populates the amygdala and creates a fight, flight, or freeze situation because we've recognized a threat. And so everything that requires thinking, processing, everything that requires thought and evaluation goes offline. So what happens is our amygdala takes over and we do what we've always done. In those situations in the past, what we've always done. And in that situation, what a lot of us have done is eat. We stress and we eat. So as our amygdala is taking over, it's not scanning our body and saying, oh, what do we really need here right now? It's not doing anything except reacting, because that's what our human brain is supposed to do. It's supposed to solve a problem. It's supposed to fix a thing. It's supposed to create a solution quick. And it's a solution that's worked before because we're alive It's worked before. So we're going to use it again and again and again. There's more to that. The insulin is involved, the hippocampus. There's more to it. But in essence, when the amygdala takes over, the prefrontal cortex goes offline, and our prefrontal cortex is in charge of thought. It is in charge of our project management. It is our thinking brain. So noticing that we're in that traumatic place, noticing even for a hot second that, oh, I just got this email. We could even preload the potential trauma, because we know when we open our email, we're going to have things. We know when we hear that somebody's having a hard day, that they walk in the door, we know there's going to be potential, right? So we
that's
can
that feeling of, not to interrupt, that's that feeling of an email pops up from someone you're used to getting stress-related emails from, stress-inducing relating, and your stomach clenches.
Exactly. Some people have same time of day issues. You know, they maybe know that as soon as they get home from work, they're going to be bombarded by, you know, you might not know what it is, but you know that your nervous system isn't necessarily prepared for it. So if you can sit and notice these times, getting these different, yes, thank you, Marcia, getting these cues where you're aware. I mean, how many of us know that we're going to struggle on our drive home because we're going to want to drive through that drive-through? If we know that we are going to want to do that, we're going to try to mitigate that. And that's a noticing that we can do in advance. So in the moment of a traumatic trigger, if we can take a pause, if we can just take a breath. Some of the ways that we can do this are, as I mentioned, in advance of opening those emails, taking a breath, having something already available to us. I don't know, starting your incense, starting spraying, giving yourself something to help you stay grounded and centered. That's one aspect. That's a noticing that you're going to be in that space. So the other option is that as you're going through the process of going to find that food, if you know where the food is, you can put a sticky note on it, and that's going to pull you out of it as well. These are things that you can help stop the brain from fulfilling its duty. So that's the physical brain that's the physical that happens when we're in a traumatic situation or a situation that makes us want to go to eat. These are not cravings. That's the fascinating part. These are not cravings, guys. These are physical, behavioral things that happen to us because we've used these tools in the past. Because what happens when we eat that food is we get a dopamine rush and possibly even a serotonin rush and possibly even some oxytocin. So we get a feel-good hormone, which is what our brains want to give us for having just been traumatized. So that's the physical that happens. And so we have to do something different. We get to figure it out. And that's the noticing. By sitting in a moment and going, wow, I just did that thing. What was the cycle? What was the list? What was the thing? So we can either notice as we're experiencing these things, if we're aware, we can pause. The noticing actually pulls us out of the amygdala, and it is the transporter to the thinking brain. So noticing in itself is a physical act in our brain that helps us take a pause, be curious, and transport us back to the thinking brain where we can make intelligent decisions, where we can take a moment and we can evaluate. So the noticing in itself, if we want to talk about it from a spiritual perspective, noticing is our physical brain doing its thing, and our self, our authentic self, being able to be curious about what the hell is going on, what kind of party is happening here. And it's not like a parent walking in on their kids. It's like a neighbor going, wow, I wonder what all that noise is. Our authentic self can sit in that noticing. and we can do it easier when we're not so stressed, which is why I recommend doing this front loading of joy, because it lowers our temperature, our stress temperature for the day. And every time we can take a moment to breathe, every time we can take a moment to do a little temporal tapping, every time we can take a moment to do a vagus nerve relaxation, every time we can do any of these things, we're taking a pause and allowing our system to shift. So that noticing is vital. To me, it's everything. We need to be able to notice. If you want to write down your food, one of the things that we do regularly is write down our food the night before, right? A lot of us do that. I haven't done it in a while, but a lot of us do that. So why do you write your food down the night before? You write your food down the night before to let go, to stop the dopamine from hitting you all throughout the day. Because dopamine, every time we go into the fridge and go, oh, I wonder what I want for lunch, that's a dopamine hit. So we want to calm that. So we write our food down the night before, and it gives us a sense of calm. But what if we were to go one step further? What if we were to take that food and make notes throughout the day when we had extra movement, when we had extra hunger, when we had extra stress, when we felt a craving come on? If we were to make those extra notes over time, you're going to start seeing patterns.
Sorry, could you say?
Shush. You're going to start seeing patterns. And those patterns are going to help you figure out you. Does that help, Tommy?
Yes, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You mentioned going to your YouTube channel. What is it?
Transform with Sonia.
Mhm.
And if you subscribe, I don't know how all this works. I just know I've got some videos up there and some classes that I've taught. And if you subscribe, then you'll see when I pop up a new public one, like this will probably be put up there. And
Yeah, the notification bell, and then they get the. Oh.
Oh, thank you. See, I'm so aware of all this stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Litzy. I hope that this information is helpful. When I first started, honestly, I knew about metabolic slowdown. I knew about insulin resistance, and I battled that for the last 3+ years. I didn't realize that on top of all of that, there's leptin resistance that is actually the cause and effect of a lot of the hunger that we go through. I did not realize that. And I knew leptin was a get up and go hormone, but I did not realize how integral it was in battling when we have this excess fat. So I want you to hear, this is a lot of information. My hope is that I'll go into more I plan to do just a small little something on the different tools that we can use, in particular the vagus nerve. Let's do that right now. All right. If you can get on video for me. I can't see anything this way.
Sonia, can I just say that being part of the Magic program, that you reminded me with this class that I have a PhD in me.
Yes, you do.
And
Yes.
I needed a reminder so that I could remember, I know about this and I know about this, and I have to talk to so-and-so about this. And I think that's important. You're sitting down for the hour with you plus 12 minutes really reminded me that the 12 minutes, it came back. It was a good beginning. All the classes are really good. And it really, really reminded me that part of the answer is the magic. And I know so much about myself that I sometimes need to be reminded. So thank you.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. Teresa, you have a question? Or you don't?
Wow. Yes. No, I want to ask you a question. Oh, thank you for taking my call. Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is this. I work out probably for sure 3 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week in the morning. And then I also in the evening will play pickleball. for like an hour and a half or so. Okay.
It is such a gift.
So my question is this,
Uh-huh.
and I follow the program, I don't know if we're supposed to say, but
Oh, it's fine. Yeah.
okay. So I follow the program, and I'm on maintenance, and I'm stuck, not like, I feel like I keep gaining a little bit of weight, and I'm wondering if I'm not eating enough food. Like maybe I need more protein, or because all I'm doing is eating the weight loss plan, plus I added a full grain, and I split that grain at lunch and at dinner. And that's my only add for all my weight, from all my weight training, because I lift weights. That's what I do in the morning. And then my cardio is the pickleball. What would your opinion be? Is that okay to ask that here?
Absolutely. That's what this whole call is all about. Deciding, that's the detective work that you've already established based on this call. Yes, you need to add more food. In particular, I would evaluate what protein sources you currently have, because a lot of times our protein sources are off. They're not.
I'm eating fish. I eat fish most of the time. I eat steak or meat most of the time. I eat beans. I eat a lot of beans. I probably eat beans at least 50% more than the other stuff.
What's your breakfast protein?
My breakfast is eggs, usually. Usually, almost always. I would say 80% of the time it's eggs. The eggs, the Ezekiel bread, and my fruit. And then if it's like on the go, I'll do overnight oats with chia seeds, walnuts, almonds, and then milk. I know you said the milk. So I think I'm going to try, instead of the milk, maybe doing water, but I don't know. I've never tried it like that. So
Well,
something to think about.
You could also use a plant-based milk and not count it. And you would just up your a plant-based milk, almond milk.
Oh, and then just add more nuts and seeds. Is that what
I would use more nuts and seeds.
Okay.
Hemp hearts, flaxseed,
Yes.
ground the flaxseed fresh if you can. Pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, all are really great sources, much better sources of protein than nuts. Walnuts, almonds, cashews all have more of a combination of fat and protein rather than a good protein source, and they cause other issues. So
Okay.
so to answer your question, I would increase your protein at breakfast, and I would increase and I would add a fat at breakfast. And I would also add, are you doing any kind of grains at lunch and dinner?
I do rice, and I know you said I do a brown rice, but you had said something about being maybe allergic to, or it may cause inflammation or something with the rice.
Well,
I mean,
for
I guess
me,
I haven't noticed that. I guess I haven't noticed, but maybe I could switch it to sweet potatoes,
I would absolutely add sweet potatoes into your meal plan regardless. And frankly, that will help with your energy levels. And it will also help your brain realize, okay, she's giving me food that's going to help me play pickleball. Because by the end of the day, when you're playing pickleball, you need to have more energy in your system. And the difference between the grains, for instance, technically sweet potato is listed as a grain, and so is brown rice. The difference in their satiety is profound. The difference in the nutritional aspect is profound. In my humble opinion, you can use sweet potatoes as a grain and or a vegetable. And the number of ways you can cook yes. The number of ways that you can cook sweet potato is incredible. So there's never going to be boredom. It does have a slightly higher glycemic index. If your sugar is a thing, it does have a slightly higher glycemic index, depending on how it's cooked. If it's boiled, it's the least glycemic. And if
I just boil it.
Yeah. It has an incredible amount of satiety. You start with just 4 ounces of additional sweet potatoes at lunch and an extra protein at breakfast. You're probably going to find several things. One, you may bump up weight-wise a little bit because your cells are happy. Your cells are no longer dehydrated, which is what happens in the process of trying desperately to keep our balance nutritionally. Our brains will dehydrate, our lean muscle cells in particular. So you may notice an increase in that, but you probably won't notice a feeling in your clothes. And then over 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, you're going to notice a huge difference. And you may either lose weight, which means you're going to need to add more food, unless you're needing to lose weight. But you're going to find a lot more balance there. Now, this is the thing that we get stuck on. We are not supposed to eat the same thing for the rest of our lives when we land in maintenance. I need you all to hear that. There's seasonal changes. There's physical changes. There's emotional changes. All of these things have an impact on how much and how well we digest. Making sure too, Teresa, that you're taking a few minutes before you sit down to eat to take a deep breath.
That's where grace comes in.
Exactly, right. Take a deep breath and physically see the shift. And bless your body for nutritionally and deliciously digesting all of these beautiful nutrients you're putting in your body.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your program. Thanks for doing this today. I had a friend just send me a message last minute, and I was getting ready for church, and I'm so glad I got to spend it with you for this last hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate it so much. And somebody, any questions? Thank you, Sonia. How do I prepare sweet potatoes? Well, sweet potatoes can be microwaved. Poke a little thing and stick them in the microwave. They can be boiled. You can cut them into smaller pieces and boil them just like you would regular potatoes. You can peel them or not. I don't peel mine at all. You can bake them whole. You can bake them by cutting them in half and sticking the one piece down and the flat piece down. That caramelizes more. You can slice them in slices and bake them that way. You can stick them in the air fryer. You can cube them in the air fryer. You can stick them in the air fryer. God, did I miss anything? Yeah, I think that's it. There's a lot of different ways to prepare a sweet potato. Yogurt is a protein source. Technically, it's a really good protein source. It does have probiotics. And I'm assuming you're talking, Susan asked this question. I'm assuming, Susan, you're talking about dairy protein. I don't believe that the plant-based yogurts give us enough protein. Plant-based yogurts are more fat because they're based usually on a nut. They're not bad, but we need to supplement the protein source. I usually add in protein powder with my plant-based yogurts. So regular dairy yogurt is a good source of protein and a good source of probiotics. And it is a horrible potential inflamer. Sorry, Susan. It's a horrible inflamer for our bodies. And it's a horrible, dairy is just, I just think it's bad. And it's not the worst thing in the world in comparison to where we were. So take that with a very one little grain of salt. Any other questions for anybody? I was gonna do this little exercise. I'm gonna highlight myself right now. I want to give you a really quick way to calm yourself. It takes about 1.5 minutes total. So take your left hand and put it over your head and pull gently straight sideways. And then look up and to the right. What we're doing right now, and all of this needs to be gentle, not forced, but maybe just a little bit of pressure to straighten. What it's doing for me right now is straightening the tension in my shoulder. But more importantly, if you can sense the feeling of that vagus nerve, there's a vagus nerve that runs around the outside of your ears and down through your neck, and the right vagus nerve goes to your heart. And for me, when I'm doing this, looking up to the right and holding my hand, I can envision a relaxation and a calming of my heartbeat. This also opens up and allows us to have better heart rate variability, which is a healthier emotional state. And it, of course, should relax you. So after at least 30 seconds, you can do this for longer. And you can do it multiple times during the day. All right, now do the other arm. Take your right arm and gently hold your head and move it toward your shoulder. And open up and look up to your left. Don't change your head at all, but look up to the left as far as you can. Now the vagus nerve on the left side runs again from the brain all the way down the behind the ears, behind the left ear and down the neck. And then this one goes through your ventral vagal system, which is your all your upper intestines and your upper organs, and down into your lower intestines, your dorsal vagal. And I don't know about you, but I feel a tingling all the way up and down my gut, all the way up into my brain. And this opens up that side of our system and allows us to go to a resting place, letting our brains know that it's safe right now. We're not in danger of getting a nasty email. We're not in danger of a kid coming to us with a problem. Everything is fine. That is a very simple way to lower and lessen your anxiety.
When I did the left side, my eyes wanted to close. Definitely went into a resting state.
Yeah. Some people experience needing to take a deep breath. Some people experience even, like you said, feeling like you want to fall asleep. It's a beautiful way to give yourself a gift. The other one that I love to do is this one. Grab your elbows, looking straight forward. This is for every time you get out of your chair. Start low, keeping your head forward, and slowly work your way up. Twisting your torso only, but keeping your head and your hips basically the same. For me, this was a game changer. This week I was especially stressed, and I found this, and such a gift. Go up to almost your forehead and then release. This opened up, for me, it opened up my rib cage. It gave me more freedom to breathe. It gave my heart more freedom. It relaxed my shoulders. This is something you can do literally every time you get up. This could be your non-exercise activity thermogenesis every now and then. That kind of movement is exactly what we're talking about opening up and giving your adrenals a good flush, your lymphatic system, a sweet emptying. Thank you all. I appreciate you coming and spending some time with me on a Sunday morning. If you have any questions at all, you can reach me. My name, Sonia Irina Johansson, is I think the only one on Facebook. I have a website, transformwithsonia.com, and I have a YouTube page, Transform with Sonia, and my name is spelled with a J, by the way. And you can always message me. I'm here to offer support and to provide help if ever. Thank you all. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you. Have a fabulous day. Don't forget to do some dancing and singing. There's magic in all of it. Go for it. Love you all.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sonia. Bye-bye.
You. Bye-bye.